There's one thing that I pride myself in being, and that's a damn truth teller. Um, because of this culture war that we have, everything that happens as a crisis turns into another chapter in our culture war. We got a lot of shitty politicians from both parties. I mean, honestly, and if any of you think that either the Democrats are virtuous or that the Republicans are virtuous, and the opposing dominant party are would be seen as the epitome of evil, then you're a hopeless hack. And I have no respect for partisan hacks, especially in our dumb two-party system. I would have more respect for partisan hacks if we have multiple viable parties, because at least even if you're a hack for one of the major parties in a truly multi-party system, you're obviously standing for something more than somebody here in the United States who plays for a team. You know, and as I said, I really do not respect partisan hackery at all, not one damn bit. I mean, if I lived in Great Britain, it'd be a different story. I mean, I'd be the biggest partisan hack for the Labour Party, or if I lived in Canada, I'd be a partisan hack for the New Democratic Party of Canada. Or if I lived in Sweden, I would be a partisan hack for the Social Democrats. Or if I lived in, I don't know, Spain or Portugal or someplace like that, I'd be the biggest hack for the Socialist Party. So, I mean, that's basically what I'm saying. Uh, Hopefully, I think most of you know where I stand ideologically on the world stage around the world, So, we don't have that here. I mean, in a way, the Democrats are the closest thing to that ideological tradition. But if you take the Democratic Party, for example, here in the United States, and you stick it in France, it will not be just what passed for the center left as it would here in the United States. In France, almost everybody from the Democratic Party here in the United States, if they lived in France, would range from the semi-radical left to the center right. So that's an example right there. Uh, Joe Biden in here in the United States will probably be a conservative or a Tory in the UK. Bernie Sanders AOC would be a middle of the road Labor MP. You get what I'm saying. But here in the United States, we have a lot of shitty people from both parties, especially down the gubernatorial level. I mean, there are some really, really horrible governors. You know, Christy Nome, was it South Dakota? Um, Greg Forte, wherever the heck his name is, from Montana. Uh, that's a piece of work. And I'm not a partisan hack. I know I mentioned two Republicans. I'm not so impressed with Andrew Cuomo of New York, So, and I despise Greg Abbott of Texas. So you can see where I'm standing. I'm pretty much equally going after Democrats and Republicans. And right now on my little shit list, there are two governors in the United States on my shit list, one from each party and representing the worst aspect of that particular party. Let's start with California. Governor Gavin Newsom. If I lived in California, I would support the recall of Gavin Newsom. Um, I think he was correct to go and do what it takes to get COVID under control. But he went too far and too overreaching. I mean, I wore a mask throughout this pandemic, and I think that the shutdowns here in North Carolina were necessary. I think they were necessary everywhere. It was an inconvenience, but it was necessary. Um, I mean, and things are kind of back to normal now that we have vaccines. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that people in California who are getting fully vaccinated are still having to wear a mask everywhere as if it was the middle of last spring of 2020 or the summer of 2020. That's just ridiculous. So, and the thing about it is that Gavin Newsom is a typical, you know, power hungry, authoritarian style corporate Democrat in the style of Hillary Clinton, in the style of, of Joe Biden, in the style of most Democrats that are part of the problem. I wouldn't have been surprised in the 1990s if he would have been a member of the Democratic Leadership Council. And the thing about it is, he micromanages people, yet he doesn't do what it takes to provide free medical care for the people. That's the corporate Democrat mindset in this time, and they're going to control your life, but they're not going to do common sense New Deal things for people. They're not going to do basic social democratic measures, but they're going to control your life otherwise. They're micromanage. This is why people make fun of Democrats, okay? And so this is why some people, one of the areas where there is justification to hate the Democratic Party with the actions of people like Gavin Newsom. Again, I'm not a partisan hack, but you got governors like Ron DeSantis of Florida, who is the polar shitty opposite side of that same coin. They're basically two sides of the same coin. You got that with Ron DeSantis of Florida. One of the worst pieces of shit that could pass for a politician in this country right now. And that's saying a lot. He wants to control people, like banning critical race theory. And now, basically, a lot of people misunderstand critical race theory, and it's not there to preach anti-white racism. It's there to basically talk about where there is actual still existing racism. I don't mean basic segregation and Jim Crow decades ago. A lot of that's been resolved. We're talking about economic institutions that are systemic. Systemic. I'm talking about issues like loan guarantees are not equal between, let's say, whites and African Americans, and redlining areas to turn places officially into ghettos, while other areas are gentrified. In other words, doing everything you can to deny economic equity for African Americans. And that's what it comes down to. And to try to address those issues so equality can take place. And it's not about forcing equality, like equality of outcome, but it's about trying to work toward equal playing field. But for some people, an equal playing field is equality of outcome. Sorry, they're two different things. Would I prefer equality of outcome over actively making people's lives visible by corporations? Absolutely. But I prefer a meritocracy. I would prefer that we have that meritocracy, and you're an American, and you have the basic resources you need to better and improve your life, regardless of who you are. And critical race theory may be a key to trying to correct that problem. It isn't preaching reverse racism, in other words. But Ron DeSantis, because he wants to go and play his race card and act like, well, they're just after us whiteys. It ain't like that with critical race theory. Even worse than his rejection of critical race theory is basically um, trying to criminalize protests. A lot of red states in the United States have done what they could to criminalize protesting because protesting by the left, it makes them uncomfortable, and they don't want to hear what the left is protesting about. But if a bunch of militia-looking Duck Dynasty type silly people come out there protesting with their machine guns, then they favor their freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is very selective, and by people like Ron DeSantis. And in Florida, there's a part of the legislation that allows to give legal basically legalize the right of somebody in a car to run over protesters that they politically disagree with, potentially legalizing murder of your political opponents, is the way I see it. That's Ron DeSantis' government in Florida. Also, just like Gavin Newsom, he opposes he opposes free medical care for the people, but wants to go and make it act like there's never been such a thing as COVID. So that's an extreme right there. The COVID response by Gavin Newsom is stupid, and so is the COVID response or lack of response by Ron DeSantis. They both represent the ugly side of our culture war in the year 2021. So, the hell with them both, and the hell with all the other corporate Democrats and the Republicans who seems to have a fascination with Augusto Pinochet style police state fascism. Fuck them both, honestly. If you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree, well, comment anyway. We'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it because we are all the breakers of our time. Also, feel free to go and hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, so you're kept up to date with hard-hitting social democratic commentary by yours truly. And until next time, I am American Social Democracy. Peace. Class struggle yesterday, class struggle today, class struggle tomorrow, and class struggle until we achieve full economic and social justice in our time.